Right, so I'm hoping this one works. I just tried to do a members stream and was sat there for like 5 to 10 minutes where it didn't notify anybody as usual. So, there we go. So we'll see if this one works. But again, it is really frustrating with sort of the membership thing on YouTube that there's a members only stream thing. And yep. So Wayland Smithers is on. So yeah, it's YouTube's problem, basically, again, as usual. So yeah, I'm all right. Hope everybody else is all right. Like I said, I was just trying to do a members stream just now because I said to everybody yesterday I'd do one today at 6 p.m, a members stream for any of the people that are channel members. And of course, YouTube doesn't notify anybody that's a member that I'm actually on. So that's typical. They still haven't fixed that months after it was an issue. So that's that. But yeah, I'm all right for anybody. Right, Byron, I did a members stream. Nobody came on. So obviously YouTube didn't notify people as usual. So that was annoying. So yeah, if you can probably look back in a minute and see that I did one, but yeah, they've still not solved the problem. It's still doing the thing of telling you it's notified people and you're just sat there and nobody comes on. And as you're about now, I just believe it just doesn't notify people or doesn't send notifications out on time. Saying if you couldn't see it, it's not your fault. It's YouTube's fault because they need to actually send them out to the people that have the thing, turned on for it. Because that's the annoying thing that, if you're paying for a service, you should get the service. But, I'm just sat there normally when I start a members one. So I'll just do a regular one and see who comes on. All right, Stuart. Yeah, so I've got something cool today, but unfortunately, I can't show it you on a live stream. There'll be a video on it tomorrow. But I haven't got the blanks yet to shoot it because it turns out it doesn't use standard blanks. Oh, it does and it doesn't. So it's a 9mm blank firer, but it's a 9mm rimmed blank firer. Not a rim fire, but a rimmed blank firer. So it needs the shorter 9mm rimmed blanks, not the standard 9mm blanks. So when I tried to do the video, I disappointedly found in the video that I couldn't actually shoot it because the blanks were slightly too long. Like maybe 1 or 2 millimeters too long to work in it. All right, what was that for the members one, Philip, or for this one? Because I did a members one and it didn't notify anybody. What, in terms of the blank fire, Stuart? It's a revolver. So it's sort of like a Colt Python rip-off thing. Annoyingly, I have to have the two-tone one because I've still not bothered, going into any of the places that let you register, like pay a membership fee and get the realistic imitation firearms type thing. But like all of it looks good except the barrel because everything is like proper gunmetal except the barrel. Well, that's still metal. It's just that it's blue colored metal. Again, the annoying thing is I can't share it on the stream because YouTube gets really funny now about anything like that on them. Oh, that's cool, Eddie. Yeah, all this is a Ecol blank firing Viper 2.5, so it's basically a Colt Python ripoff. But yeah, like I said, annoyingly, it doesn't use standard 9mm blanks like I thought it would, because obviously it's a blank fire. I thought, they'll have just adapted the cylinders to fit regular blanks. They won't need to be rimmed. But no, it does use rimmed blanks, even though it doesn't need to. So, they're like a millimeter or two shorter than the standard 9mm blank. Like the rim bit wouldn't make a difference because it's not actually a rim fire. It's still a center fire. It's just that, like the regular 9mm cartridges are just like a tad too long for the actual cylinders to close and then rotate properly. Oh, I see what you mean, Stuart. Like, as in, like, yeah, the new not front venting ones. I get what you mean there. Yeah, sorry, I thought you meant like just like the age of like the gun it was copying. But yeah, well, for staying like warm and dry in the rain and that, Byron, yeah, it probably works quite well. But yeah, like all of them now are like not front venting, are they? They're all like top venting or side venting. So by the look of this one, again, annoyingly, I can't hold it up and show it on the camera. It looks like some of the gas, when you vent it, will come out the like little bit between the cylinder and the front of the revolver. Like, that happens even with real revolvers. And it looks like the barrel goes a little bit forward and then there's a top vent. So it looks like that's how it vents it. Some out the cylinder, some out the barrel, essentially, but the barrel from the top. But yeah, I can understand, like, with blank firers, why they changed the rules, because essentially, if you had an old style blank firer that just literally was front forward venting, like essentially just a plain barrel, it's very easy to obviously load real rounds into them, and people modified them very easily to do that. Again, I think this is where a lot of the stuff comes from, where people said, oh, it was like airsoft guns that were modded or DX that were modded. Like, no, not really. It was mostly blank firers that were essentially, you know, like movie style blank firers. Yeah, Wayland Smithers, weirdly, YouTube has lots of weird things where they just hide comments. And again, why they do that, I don't know, but there's so many things with YouTube where they just don't, you know, things just don't work as they should. Like I said, it's quite frustrating if you want to do YouTube videos sort of as a regular thing, because you have to keep putting up with all the, you know, stuff like that. That's a shame, Eddie. Well, like a Nagant revolver, was it? Yeah, that would just explode in your hands. Because like, I can definitely understand how some, like, you know, if you had a blank firer that was essentially a front venting blank firer, if you put a higher pressure barrel in it, I could definitely understand how that would have worked. You know, I'm not condoning that or anything, because obviously I don't want laws being made shitter for people, but I can definitely understand how it would have worked, because all you're doing is really hardening a couple of parts, because you've already essentially got a firearm there. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be on more again, Byron, now, because my stomach's still getting better. So, you know, like the last couple of days have been better than like the previous couple of days, you know, and that's been a lot better than the few days before that when I felt really bad. What model crossbow did you get, Stuart? Because I think, Eddie, if I'm right, the Gant revolver is like one of the few revolvers you can actually put a suppressor or a silencer on because of how tight, like, all the bits fit together. Cheers, Philip. Yeah. Like I said, it's just the usual thing where if it's ulcerative colitis based, I just go onto the stronger medication for a bit, and then if that starts getting it under control, I take the stronger medication, you know, as well as the weaker medication for like a week, and then just stop taking it again. You definitely want to be using the ECBA, assuming you're using the plates with it, right, and the filler. You want the ECBA because it's just a lot lighter. I mean, obviously, if you need to use an inhaler, you use an inhaler and all that, like asthma. But in terms of weight, the ECBA is so much lighter because it's literally just two small ceramic plates, one in the front, one in the back, and the Kevlar filler. So in terms of weight distribution, the ECBA, you know, is... I've actually probably got it in this room, I think. Hang on. Yeah, I do. Right. That's like 5 kilos at most, the ECBA. So yeah, that's not very heavy at all. You could very comfortably just sit around in this and stand around in it. Don't ask weird political questions, please. Yeah, exactly, Nuclear Yorkshire. Yeah, it's just literally, isn't it, a button at the top, and then you've got the Velcro big bit there. Essentially, this is just a flak jacket with ceramic plates in it. That's all it is. But yeah, I like this just because, again, if you're in a situation where you needed a full plate carrier, yeah, this wouldn't cut it. But if it was one of those things where a lot of the time it wasn't designed to be used, a bit like the M1 carbine, it wasn't a frontline troop thing. Although, again, like all those bits of gear, people get issued the wrong stuff. But it sounds good, Philip. But yeah, it's a shame you can't remember the name of it. But I've not used it in a while, Byron, because the reason is I'd like to use it, but normally when the weather's cold enough to use it, it's always really wet and damp, and I don't want to wear a wool coat when it's really wet and damp. I'd rather wear a raincoat. So that's the kind of problem. So it's like one of those things where I'd like to wear it more often, but the problem is when it's cold enough to wear it, often it's then damp. I know wool is actually all right if it gets damp, but you know, it's just one of those things where, like, every time it's sort of the right time of year weather-wise to wear it, I'd always just rather have a raincoat on. Yeah, well, they just have basically a blacklist of words, and I don't even know what the words are. Where if you type them, it just basically doesn't tell you it's deleted the comment. It just doesn't show up for anybody except you. So it's like, what do they call it? Shadow banning the comments. You know I have an FM12 gas master blatantly. Right, I'm getting rid of the person that's blatantly asking dodgy questions. Yeah, everything I've got is completely legal. You know, as like Mike has to say a lot because, you know, there'll be people that try it on. But yeah, everything I've got is totally legal in the UK. I've got a few things that, you know, like are in a bit of a grey area, as in they're legal, but they're the sort of things where a lot of people, even like the cops, wouldn't necessarily know the laws about them. Because there is a lot of stuff like that there, you know, a bit like the obsolete caliber firearms, where the law says you can have them, but I bet a lot of people wouldn't even know that law's a thing, even though it is a thing. But yeah, so for people asking, yes, if you're just doing something casually with some armor, I'd always recommend the ECBA over the other ones, just because the ECBA is very comfortable. Cheers, Alex. So, yeah, exactly that sort of thing. Yeah, Byron. It's like something you can legally have, but because it might sound scary to people, or it's one of those things, because there's a lot of people that still don't think, you know, you can have crossbows and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you really need to anymore, Stuart, unless there's a really nasty kind of flu sort of thing. But yeah, I don't wear masks very much in public. I generally only wear masks now, like the type that stop you breathing out on people, if I think I'm going to be around vulnerable people. Because the thing is, like, obviously, how easy it is to pick up germs, unless something really scary comes along. I don't really see the point in constantly, you know, wearing a mask, because you're still going to get probably an infection anyway. This is the cover for it. So yeah, you could get it in the old 95 DPM, the Woodland one. They did it in 95 Desert, and they also did it in this one, the MTP. This was like the last thing for it, because I think technically they're not making any of the bits for it anymore. Like, it was one of those things that I think was meant to be discontinued a lot earlier on than it was, because they still kept using it for stuff. Yeah, fair enough. If you're on a train or like a bus, I could understand why you'd want a mask on, but yeah. So yeah, what they basically did is they just kept making new, you know, like things. So this one is better than the older liners for them, because the bits fit into it easier. Like, the older liners are a bit of a pain in the ass. Yeah, it's interesting, Nuclear Yorkshire, yeah. I mean, I doubt there's problems with the plates or whatever, but I imagine it's again going to be one of those issues where they decided to issue one thing for everybody and then found, you know, it didn't work for all the roles. Because again, what Britain did with the ECBA and quite a few other nations did is basically you had a light plate carrier and you had the heavy plate carrier. So this would be essentially like the equivalent of a light plate carrier. So quite a few nations did the thing of just having a flak jacket where you'd have a ceramic or a steel plate just covering, you know, your vitals on the front. And then you'd also have the one that's a full-on plate carrier for frontline troops, which makes sense to me, rather than doing the thing of giving everybody really heavy armor, or giving some people heavy armor and then no armor, or giving everybody light armor. You know, it just seems to make a lot more sense to have a mix of armors, you know, assuming you can logistically do that, and then just issuing the ones that are the right ones for the job. Yeah, the Virtus helmet's really good that I've got. That's good. But I've played airsoft before, and there's airsoft guns in the background, which I can't show you because of YouTube rules now. They're even funny on that. On the stream at least, anyway. But yeah, the annoying thing for me is there's nowhere that close to me that actually does airsoft games. So the closest place to me, if they even still do airsoft, I've not looked in ages. They only used to do, I think it was 1 or 2 airsoft games a month, and it was on a Sunday. And I've always worked Sundays. So it was kind of that issue. You'd have to book a day off work as holiday for me to go there. It was a decent length trip. So, you know, it wasn't cheap on the petrol. And then if it was called off because of bad weather or whatever, you know, like it does a lot in the UK, you basically have used the day's holiday day up, or potentially, you know, driven 40 miles or whatever, only to find out it wasn't on. Some of it, I reckon, is the MOD selling it, Nuclear Yorkshire, even if they're not meant to. I bet, like, it's nowhere near as bad as the Russian army, where you saw all the stuff being sold, you know, like when it was brand new equipment still wrapped up. But yeah, I imagine it's the thing of, like, people being told it's not, like, I can understand if it's, like, beat to shit stuff that's, you know, been used and then it's sold like proper surplus. But it might be in a sense of surplus, as in they think they have more than they need and they're ordered to get rid of it, but then told, you know, oh, you weren't meant to get rid of it properly. Because a lot of that stuff is like the stuff that's headed to Ukraine now, where they donated a lot to Ukraine, where I assume it was meant to sit in a warehouse where it wasn't sold on until they decided if they needed it or not, and then they said, right, give it to Ukraine. Because I have seen Ukrainian soldiers with ECBAs on, like, Mark 6 helmets and everything. $200. Well, is that 200 US dollars? I don't know exactly what you can get in the US at the moment, but could you get an Avon C50 or an FM53 or anything like that, like the US service masks for that sort of money? I've seen a massive mix of stuff, Alex, saying, 'cause this is the problem. I've never seen like a proper thing of like the Ukrainian army has a mass, you know, purchased or mass produced X mask. It seems like whenever I've seen pictures of their soldiers with masks, it seems like they've been either donated loads of stuff or they've bought loads of stuff in cheap at places. So well, it was meant to be today, CM, but it just didn't work. Nobody got the notification while I was actually on doing the members one, so I just had to stop it and come on and do a public one, because, you know, typical. I'll try and do one Monday if you like and see if that works about 6 p.m. I don't mind trying that. But again, it might still be the problem that YouTube just doesn't notify anybody that I'm on, and then the member streams don't work full stop, because if they're like essentially invite only and it requires YouTube to send the invitations out and it doesn't do it, then we've got a bit of a problem. Yeah, Alex saying, I'm assuming it's a thing where they've had, like, you know, loads of masks either donated or sold to them kind of wholesale. So I've seen where they've had like Scott M95s, if it's that mask. I think that's the name of it, isn't it? I've got one, but I've got the other variant of it as a different number. I think I've seen one with either S10s or FM12s. I think I've seen ones with Dragers. Let me just search Ukrainian Army gas masks and see what comes up. I'm sure loads of them still have old Soviet gear as well. And I'm trying to find ones that are actually verifiable pictures of Ukrainian soldiers, not, you know, random stuff. One of the pictures when they were doing their nuclear drills earlier in the year was things like Polish MP5s. Some of them look like they've got Israeli masks on. To me, it looks like they've basically got a mishmash of whatever, you know, they were sold or given en masse, you know, to replace the Soviet stuff, because I'm sure a lot of them still have Soviet stuff. But it basically looks like a lot of them just have, you know, various Western European or American, you know, masks from like 10 years ago. For that, Alex Saint, but I imagine if they're moving over to 40mm NATO, that's not a problem. I imagine the people being given the old masks will have the old filters. Yeah, Philip, that would make sense, because I imagine it's like a lot of the donated equipment. It's just, if you're being donated it, you're not going to say no, are you, if somebody's giving you free stuff, even if it causes a bit of a logistical issue. Yeah, thank YouTube for that, Boggy Boy, because like I said, it's very irritating when like I try and do a members stream or whatever, and it just doesn't send out the notifications that I'm on. Right, Brighton? Yeah, except for the GSR and the M50, they don't. They use their own proprietary filters. But yeah, for the most part, 40mm NATO, you know, and that's all. I haven't seen them with GSRs and M50s. They always seem to be using, you know, like I was saying, sort of masks from about the 90s or the 2000s, or maybe up to 2010, that, you know, they've either been donated when a military said, right, these aren't in their shelf life anymore for us, they probably just donated them or something. Right, Rich? Right, Rich. Regarding the thing you said about membership before, I tried to do a member stream earlier, still the same issue. It was on for about 5 to 10 minutes and it didn't notify anybody I was on. As soon as I started this one, there were members on within the first minute. So, yeah, it still does, as you said, the problem of, you know, membership issues. No, like the ones I saw with pictures of them in the suits, they look more like they had those like Tychem or Tyvek suits, whatever they're called, you know, just like the 3M style, like, you know, brown or green or yellow ones, those sort of things. I didn't see any with like, you know, actual like military surplus looking NBC suits. They all seem to have more like, you know, civilian industry style NBC suits. Yeah, well, I imagine Poland probably would donate them filters, because Poland's donated them a hell of a lot of the stuff. So I imagine if they asked Poland, they could probably get a load of like modern GOST filters. That wouldn't be an issue. But yeah, like you're saying, it is more the logistical problem, isn't it? That having two 40mm masks and two different things. Yeah, I can imagine that, Brighto. That's sort of been a meme, hasn't it? It's like, have you heard this joke? I'm going to probably do it terribly, but it's one of those ones that's funny, even though it's not very funny. So a Polish man finds, like, you know, a magical lamp in a field one day and rubs it, and a genie comes out, and the genie says you can have 3 wishes. And the Polish man says, I want Poland to be invaded by the Mongol hordes. The genie's confused but grants the wish. After lots of pillaging and looting, the Polish man rubs the lamp again and wishes for the same thing. Again, the genie grants it. The Polish man then again wishes for it the 3rd time. Everything around him is destroyed and burnt down. The genie says, I've granted your wishes, but please tell me why you wanted Poland to be invaded by the Mongols 3 times. And the Polish man says, because they passed through Russia 6 times. So yeah, I know the attitude. Yeah, the problem with the Tychem suits, Byron, is they sound like a wrinkly crisp packet. It literally sounds like you've got a crisp packet and you're just smashing it constantly because of like the type of plastic they're made from. They're probably completely fine NBC suits in terms of working. I just don't like the noise they make. The handheld one. It's the one Hype gave me. I've done a video on it before. Well, not a proper video, but I've shown it before. It's a Radtail. If it's still got battery power, there we go.
Welcome. Frequency mode.
Good evening. Descend altitude 4,000 feet. You are clear to the Oscar X-ray. Expect no delay for the NDB out at 4
There you go. That's the local air traffic control. Right, over. Yeah, that's. Oh, thank you very much, CM. Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of like, you know, stuff like either solar or whatever, so you can actually run stuff without being connected to a mains line. But yeah, like I was saying before with the ROC post, if ever I get one of those, because with what Putin's done, it's made those shoot up in price even more than they should have done. That's the sort of thing where you'd have to run it off solar or a generator or whatever. The most modern one I have, Philip, in terms of wow, there's one you'll see next week when I get a video done on it that's very modern, but I don't know if that's for me to keep, so I'll do a video on it. But I won't mention that one now. I'll just say that there'll be a video on one. I have that British Armed Police one I did a video on fairly recently that is actually really nice. It's actually better than the British Army ones, the British Armed Police ones, the Remploy one, whatever it is. And I've also got that Polish, was it the Fu one suit? Which is like the Polish WZ-93 camo one. It's a bit like a British Mark IV, it's just nicer quality. Aren't the Zodiac suits quite old, the like West German Zodiac suits? I don't actually have one of those. 4A1s are absolutely fine as long as you get an actual Israeli 4A1. Like some of the Chinese copies of them are awful, literally like not working quality of awful. That's cool, CM, but yeah, that's not good, getting it stuck in the mud. Yeah, the only problem I had with the Remploy, Philip, was that zip across the back like that to do it up. That was the only issue I had. Although what I saw people recommend with that is get a coat hanger, get the coat hanger and use the coat hanger to pull it across. Ah, that's good, Brighton. It's the second-hand grey area law, Alex saying, well, it's not a grey area. If somebody wants to sell you a gun like a RIF, they're allowed to do it. It's just they have to take responsibility. And because it was a friend that sold me all his old airsoft guns, he didn't care because he knew that basically didn't care in the sense that he knew I have blank firers, you know, DIAC guns and whatever, and I've never done anything stupid with them. So he was prepared to take the responsibility that I'm suddenly not going to do something stupid with an airsoft gun. It's the whole like UCARA type thing is a defense for retailers. So basically it's so if you're a retailer, you can say you've done your due diligence before selling somebody a thing. So a retailer could literally say to you, I like the look of you, I'll sell you this. But then if you did something with it and the police like tried to chase up where you've got it, and then they find out that, you know, you went to a retailer and they didn't do their due diligence, I think that's where the problem is. But because there's a lot more things as well as like the UCARA ways you can get realistic imitation firearms, but then some retailers say they don't accept some of them and they accept others, you know, depending on how easy it is to get the thing. Yeah, we've had rain getting in our roof again after it. I've like went up with my uncle months ago, you know, and repaired a load of it, and it was good for months. Now with how heavy the rain's been and the wind, it's managing to get back in again the water, which is a pain in the arse. That roof's been a nightmare since we've had it. Like the old one used to leak. We then had a replacement roof done, and then that one started leaking after a while. It's just like I think a lot of those plasticky conservatory roofs aren't very good. If I was to have one, you know, and pay for one, I'd probably have a proper glass one on rather than like those plastic sheets. It's not like the plastic's inherently bad. I just think it's the way they sort of segment together aren't very good. And also we've got, you know, one of those houses that was probably never designed to have a conservatory stuck on the back of it. So where the tiles connect to the conservatory roof, that is always like a dodgy area. You know, you have to put so much lead flashing on there and everything to try and counter it. All right, Visa. I tried to do a members stream earlier and it didn't notify anybody I was on. Yeah, right, so we've got quite a few things like that here, because, yeah, I keep meaning, because, again, I can't show it on stream annoyingly, but the thing I bought today, the blank firer, I didn't buy it today, but it was delivered today, that's a two-tone one. And you can get, like, single-tone blank firers that look really good, but the problem is that, again, all the sites selling them will require you to have one of the types of, you know, what they'd call a defense for owning it. Like, with some of them, I could literally probably write, this is my YouTube channel, you know, I have this many subscribers, I do all of this kind of as a side income, and some of them might actually consider that a good enough defense, but a lot of them would like you to be a member of a certain kind of group, whether it be an airsofting group or whatever. And again, that's why I've seen some, because like when I bought my airsoft gun ages ago, like the one I bought that was two-tone from a shop, the bloke was saying there that, you know, like there's certain ones he accepts and certain ones he doesn't, depending on how easy they are to get. Because he said there was a problem at one point where, you know, there was one group that would just let anybody in, you know, without checking, you know, that they'd done any of the stuff that they, you know. So he was saying he didn't want to accept anybody from that group just in case, you know, they had literally just applied the day before and wanted to get one to fuck about, you know, and do stupid shit. But he was saying technically he didn't have to do that much due diligence, you know. He could, if they were a member of a proper group, he could have just, you know, used that as his defense. But he was saying as a retailer, he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to get a load of shit come back on him, you know, and then, you know, get his name dragged through the mud, I guess, in the press or whatever. That's good, Nuclear Yorkshire. Right, bots. Yeah, somebody was asking me about an ECBA vest, and I thought, oh, I've actually got one in the room laying down there, so I went to get it out. But you actually got it, Visa, but did you get it on time? Because a lot of the time, the problem is people get the notification from members stream like 20 minutes after it starts. Which was that? The Ukraine war was started by Putin, clearly. Oh, what? Didn't you click live? Yeah. Yeah, well, the reason I like ECBA, as like we were saying, is because it's a light plate carrier rather than being, you know, the full-on heavy one. Like, yeah, you wouldn't want this if you're somewhere where there's loads of shrapnel flying about or whatever else. But this is kind of like a rear echelon vest, isn't it? What I'll do on Monday, because who was it that asked me about doing one again? Was it UCM? I can't remember. What I'll try and do on Monday, when I do the stream on Monday, is let's say I'm going to start trying to do a member stream at 6. I might come on at 10 to 6, like while I'm still setting up, and that way we'll see if a notification comes out, you know, like while I'm setting stuff up. That way, you know, if there's 10 minutes of nothing happening, it's not so much of an issue. Slow mode, I think, is set either not on or it's set to like 10 seconds. Yeah, you could do that easily, Nuclear Yorkshire. If I've got one down here, hang on, I do. Hopefully it's fairly clean. But there's the old, like Viet Cong style thing. So I've got the, so I thought you had one of them goes over each of the things, doesn't it? I know you can put your arms through each bit, but and tie it behind your back. But anyway, let me just do this just for example. Where's the no. But yeah, you could. I'm not going to do it all up over the vest now because I'd have to adjust the length of the straps. But yeah, there's nothing stopping you of like one of these. I'm getting confused now. It actually goes on because I thought it was like your arm goes through each of the bits. But yeah, like I was saying, you can easily put on. That's probably what I was doing wrong. Yeah, you could easily have something like this on if that's what you're on about, like any sort of pouch rig just sitting on top of an ECBA. That would work absolutely fine. Because you know, obviously, right. Let's hope this YouTube doesn't get me in trouble for this because I'm not actually handling a firearm. But yeah, you could easily have the actual mags on there without much issue. Or any of these sort of, you know, because you can obviously get rigs that are much more sophisticated than this one. I just like the old Viet Cong style one. But yeah, with the ECBA, it's the same. With a rig, there is literally no issue whatsoever with it. Or if you wear an assault vest type thing, you can just loosen that a bit, flip it up over, you know, with all the pouches already set up on it. Yeah, exactly, bots. They're very simple, aren't they? But they work. No, let me look what that looks like, Oliver. Right, sorry for all the people asking questions, because I'm suddenly getting loads more questions come through in a shorter amount of time. So it probably means you're going to have to re-ask the questions if I miss them. I'll be on, by the way, for about another 15 minutes or so. That's not too expensive, is it, that one? That looks to me to be very similar to this one. Like with a more sophisticated kind of screen, or less sophisticated in a way. Hang on a second. Does it say what it goes up to? So looking at it, it kind of reminds me, like, if it's the Chinese one, of the same sort of interface. So hard beta detection, gamma ray detection, X-ray detection. Or inspection, it says. Does it say what the... So it goes up to 500 millisieverts. Okay, that's a lot better than this one. But yeah, again, it's a Chinese camera. That looks really familiar, though, that one. But I don't know if I've ever had one like that before. Again, I've got, like, this Chinese one. I wonder if I load the same interface on it as this one. That might be why. If I've got the battery charged on this. I think the battery might be dead on this one. I probably left it on when I wasn't using it. Hang on. Yeah, I think it's probably got some of the same similarities with this one. Not planning on it at the moment, Alex Saint, just because of the cost of them compared to how expensive everything is. All right, see you, Alex Saint. Oh, that sounds good, Pops. Yeah, I know, Rich. That's why I was sort of... I've not even shown anything like that. That's what I was saying. The most I do on this one is a mag. Let me see what that is, Brighton. Oh, is that you with a sniper rifle? Which one's IBA? As in Ireland body armor or something else? When you say liable, do you mean viable? Well, what making the instead of right, what making laws worse for like gun carry sort of thing. But yeah, I was saying it reminds me of this one a bit. That hang on. Yeah, I'm gonna have to charge this one up. I think the problem is that the battery's so low on it at the moment that well, saying that no, that's the problem. I've not got a rechargeable battery in it. Right, I need to put a rechargeable battery in it. So it's basically this has fully drained the battery that it runs off of normally. And then, yeah, I've not got a rechargeable battery in it, so it won't recharge it. So yeah, what I'll do at some point is pop a rechargeable AA in there, and then it can charge up via a 5-volt lead. I don't know much about it, I'm afraid, Joshua. Let me have a look at a picture of it. As long as the filler in it's all right, it's probably all right, you know, if that makes sense. Because if it's a Kevlar, what, like 3A, like, you know, actually soft bit, and it's got a plate of some sort on it, it's still going to be much better than no armor, isn't it? That was a Geiger counter I was holding. It's because somebody was asking about a different model of Geiger. Anyway, Interceptor multi-threat body armor. Let me just search that up so I can actually see what it looks like before the chat moves on too much. Oh, I know the one. Like the one that's famous from like Iraq and Afghanistan. Like it's probably like what the US had when Britain had the what do you call it one? What's the word for it? Like when Britain had Osprey, it's kind of like the US equivalent, wasn't it? Or the US probably came up with it first and we sort of copied it for Osprey. But yeah. So it's like the US equivalent of Osprey. Yeah, that would still work, assuming that you've got the right plates and a good filler in it. And bear in mind, you can probably just get new Kevlar fillers of roughly the right size and fit them in, because all the, you know, cover is a cover. Ah, cool. SMLE Mark III. What's the one I have? Because I've got an old SMLE, but I can't. I think is mine a number 1 Mark III. I can never remember because there's so many numbers and marks with SMLEs. But I actually don't know, bots. I know with a radio like this, which isn't really a ham radio, to talk on certain channels, you need a license, but like to just listen into stuff, you don't. So if the air traffic control talks again, I can listen in with this sort of radio fine. Just turn it up again. But again, like I was saying, it.
Oxford ground, fire
5 Tower, Pacific.
Juliet, custody 2 kilo.
5 behind the jet, just the Juliet kilo.
Oxford Juliet, speed 2 kilo, 5.
So yeah, like obviously, it's probably an offence. I've turned it off now to start pushing down and start talking over their transmissions. Yeah, exactly like that, bots. Yeah, there's certain channels here where you can listen to stuff, but you can't broadcast without a license. Yeah. Would that be fully capable of being off-grid though, Rich? Would it be like you could run stuff all the time, or would that be like the entry level for just like running a fridge and a freezer most of the time and then like running electronics at certain times a day? Because I know with some of that, you sometimes need to spend then more, don't you, to get a good enough battery like backup and like more solar panels and whatever. But I mean, obviously, if you're talking about a diesel generator, then that would be, you know, simple. Just constantly buy the diesel, red diesel, and top it up. But all right, yeah, sounds interesting, CM. I'd be really interested in that because, like I said, there are channels I'm subscribed to, but there's some channels I subbed to years ago when a lot of their videos were about off-grid type stuff, and then a lot of them, annoyingly now, like not necessarily annoyingly if it's what they want to do with their channels, have just turned into other sort of stuff. But yeah, there's a load of channels I've actually watched videos from, you know, when they were initially about, you know, solar panel or like, you know, other similar things in their battery setups, you know, and how many hours a day they could run certain things on. That was really interesting. You know, where people essentially built like cabin in the woods type things, you know, and then we're on about running electronics off of them. What I would always find interesting, CM, is again, not that you could really either legally do it or safely do it, but like making a radiothermite electric generator for an off-grid thing, like have a massive radiation source somewhere that's not too close to your house that releases decay heat, and then you've got the heat transfer powering a battery. Well, I can always share a video for you, CM. If you think it's a good thing, I can always share it. It doesn't mean people are going to watch it. But I don't mind resharing other people's videos if they're like related to the channel. We did a thing, Brighter, when I was at school of sticking like probes in lemons and powering a light bulb off a lemon. That sounds a bit more advanced than that, but yeah, but that's the annoying thing with YouTube. There's a lot of time where there's videos you want to make and they won't get that many views, and the videos that aren't as much what you're interested in or in the mood to make, you know, but that gets a lot more views. And that's like, I think where a lot of channels always get accused of selling out. But I can understand if the people have an income, you know, and they have a family to feed, I can understand why, you know, they might be doing one sort of thing, because that might just be the only thing they can do to survive. I doubt unboring videos they are, because generally if a mask's not been in production, a lot more time goes on, the less of them that are about, the more expensive they get. I might have used that one, Visa, but let me bookmark it if I've not got it bookmarked. Because that's the one. Yep, I've got the site bookmarked, because I was trying to listen into the Russians screaming and shouting at each other over the radios when the Ukraine war started. You know, when they were all on their Baofengs, not encrypted channels. The problem I have got sometimes isn't that I don't watch people's videos, it's that YouTube doesn't fucking recommend me the videos in the first place. So there's so many channels I'm sub to and I've clicked about, and I'll for ages not think they've uploaded anything because I've not manually checked their channel. But then random channels I'm not subbed to get shoved down my throat because YouTube's like, oh, you want to watch this, don't you? It's the latest hot videos. Like, no, I don't. Right, Nick? Oh, speaking of the World War III shit, Philip, did you hear, this is quite funny, apparently, because the Ruskies keep threatening us, well, it's not really to threaten us, it's for their domestic audience, like this nuclear torpedo that's going to set off a big nuke or something and, like, drown Britain under a tsunami. Apparently they did a test fire of it without a nuclear warhead on, you know, just to test this magic missile of theirs, their Wunderwaffe, and apparently it failed. You know, the torpedo didn't work. So, yeah, there you go. The funny thing is, the more time goes on, the less worried I am of a Russian nuclear stockpile, because I imagine it's just as shit as all their other stuff. Poseidon, that's the one. Yeah, exactly, bots. This is the problem I have. Stuff I actually want to watch, and channels I want to support and I'm sub to, often I don't even know they've uploaded a video. Random, like, person reacts to something, which I don't want to watch, is shoved down my throat. But yeah, if you see the condition their tanks are in and how much of their shit's been sold off due to corruption, I'm not surprised when they have their big scary weapons. Like, have you heard the T-14 Armata project's been completely cancelled now? Oh, so that was good, wasn't it? They had some cool-looking tanks for a Victory Day parade a few times, and then they broke down on the parade ground, and now Putin's cancelled it because the money needs to go elsewhere. Cheers, Griggle. But yeah, it was because somebody asked me about it earlier, and I was like, oh, I actually happen to have the ECBA in this room, so I got it out. I was making the point that you can wear it quite comfortably for quite a while. I know I'm sat down at the moment, but the point is, compared to a lot of body armors, the ECBA is very comfortable. Yeah, exactly. Maybe the yacht got impounded, so they need to cancel all the T-14s to buy another yacht that hopefully won't get impounded. They're not super rare, because bear in mind, I didn't get this with the MTP stuff. I got this in the Desert DPM with the Kevlar filler and the plates. And then I just bought the MTP cover later on when the army surplus to load and just put it in the MTP stuff because it was newer. Let's just see. There you go. Look, if you want to get them, I'll just shorten the URL because eBay does that thing where it always gives you stupidly big URLs. This is just the cover, but yeah, the covers in ECBA MTP are really easy to get because, you know, the army apparently just sold loads of them off. You know, it doesn't have the fillers in, but if you already have the fillers or you put them together yourselves, you know, the plates and whatever else, you can just do it. It's not very hard to actually, you know, it's not very hard to actually put them together. And again, the reason I got one of these is because the Velcro and the buttons are a lot better on them than the older sort of desert ones. And the woodland one I've got, I couldn't even fucking fit the Kevlar filler in it because of how awkward it was to do. At least with these, they've made them much easier to take the Kevlar in now because, you know, they've made the bits wider that the Kevlar goes in and then Velcros or zips up on, rather than it being like a tiny little bit you have to try and squeeze it through. Yeah, exactly, bots. I think the Germans want to do that, don't they, with their new version of Leopard or whatever. Yeah, exactly, Rich. They're cheap, aren't they, the liners? So it's a good thing. If you wanted to get one of these, it's just you can get them in the blue, like, press and UN colour as well, I think. So you could pretend to be a UN peacekeeper or a journalist. Yeah, it's a bit of a funny name. It looks futuristic. Like, Britain's got the Challenger 3 apparently meant to be coming out at some point. Whether or not it does or not, I don't know. But there was some. I might try and get a new dash cam, Nick. Because the problem is my current dash cam, I don't end up using it a lot because it has one of those annoying issues with it where either the memory card seems to like format error with it, even though it's not the memory card, it's the dash cam doing it, or it's like if the battery gets a bit low, even though it's meant to run off the 12 volt, you it then starts cocking up. So my mum has a really good, I think it's a Garmin dash cam. So I want to get like the same model she's got, or like a newer one. So I'm wanting to probably get a dash cam just because of the sheer amount of times I'm driving and you see a really dodgy driver on the road, and I think, yeah, for insurance reasons, probably ought to get another dash cam. Yeah, that's a shame, Quiggle, but that's the problem with a lot of this stuff, isn't it? Where it's like, with so much of the British stuff, it's like the Warrior was really good, it just had a bad turret, rather than like making a good turret and just, or like buying the Bradley's turret essentially from Bushmaster and just sticking them on. They just spent loads of money and time messing about with other things, only to decide they weren't having those things. It's a bit like with the Chieftain, wasn't it? It was a really, really good tank, but it had a really bad engine. So rather than just putting a good engine in it and then having a really good tank, they just stuck with a bad engine, and it had a reputation as a bad tank when it wasn't. That's interesting, Nick. Yeah, but what I know for certain though is the one my mum has is a lot better than mine, as in it always seems to work. She's not very technology minded as well, and she can get it to work and record all the time. So it's that sort of thing. It makes sense. So the one she's got, I'll look what that is in a second, box. But yeah, it's just that sort of thing where I'll definitely keep an eye on that. That I'm not overpaying for essentially the same chips or whatever that are in another thing. But what I am saying is the one she's got is definitely better than my one because it just works. Whereas my one has given me so many issues where I found it's not recorded after driving where it says it's recording because the card wasn't formatted right. So then you get the dash cam to format the card right, and it's fine for a week, and then it starts doing it again. Yeah, it did actually work as a multi-fuel engine, though, didn't it? It was just that it tended to break down a lot. Let me search that up now, Nick, and bookmark one. So if they come out on Black Friday sales, I can look into them. I'm probably not going to bother with a rear one, so I see. It's quite flush-looking thing, isn't it? So it just sticks on, and it's not like one that dangles down like a little camera. It's kind of like directly, yeah. I do like the look of that. But yeah, thanks for that. I'll bookmark them and then have a look at if they're on sale. Yeah, 95% failure rate, but when it worked, yeah. Hopefully Brightel, but who knows. Oh, anyway, I was going to look it up, sorry, bots, before I got distracted by dash cams. Independent tank. Oh, cool, yeah. So what's it? It's like a Vickers battle tank kind of thing, a bit like the battleships. Because the French, didn't they have, lad, like a massive tank like that, where it was like almost like a land ship kind of thing. What was the French one that had several turrets? Was it the FCM F1 I'm thinking of, or another one? I'm looking through them now at the bottom of the sink, like related tanks, but I can't remember. I know it was one of the ones that you could get in Ruse as like the top tier French tank. But yeah, I don't know that looking, but yeah. Char 2C. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately though, Friday means that I've got what am I working tomorrow? I think 10 hours I'm working tomorrow. And Sunday I'm probably working 9.5 hours. So yeah, I've got a 20-hour weekend coming up. So yeah, I think it was probably the Char 2C I was thinking of, but yeah. I think tanks will still exist. I think they'll just have to have like countermeasures on them, like the trophy system or whatever it's called, where, you know, the tank has its own system for intercepting, you know, incoming rockets. Yeah, starting at 7:30 in the morning and probably won't be out between 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. That's all right. It's good money, at least. Well, at least you need that money, how the current economy is. But anyway, I'll be off now because I want to get a bit of dinner because I've not actually had any. I had a bit of lunch earlier, but, you know, I'll have some proper dinner now. But yeah, thanks for coming on, everybody. Like I said, it's a bit annoying the members stream didn't work. So I'm going to do some food and then probably not have too late a night because obviously I'll be up for work at 6 a.m. or whatever tomorrow. I don't need to get up as early as 6 a.m., but I'd rather get up a bit earlier and get some coffee in me than, you know, be crawling out of bed and trying to get in the car and rush to work. But yeah, I'm definitely, cheers, Philip. I'm definitely feeling a lot better than I was. Taking stronger medication that, you know, I'm prescribed to take if I need it has been working. So, right, have a good evening, everybody. And I'll, there's a video on tomorrow at 5 p.m. on the blank fire, but sadly it's not shooting because I haven't got the right blanks for it yet. And then hopefully on Monday I'll get a chance to try members stream again.